guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is 46 years old, and he's going to share his story about how he ended up sharing my work with a really good friend of his who found himself in a situation that a lot of guys who write into me find themselves in. In particular, this guy has been married for a while, has kids, and it turns out that his wife wanted to do a long girls' weekend off somewhere with a bunch of her friends that definitely have a reputation for being quote-unquote party girls. And this guy, obviously the friend of the guy telling the story here, was uneasy about this, and this guy showed him some of my videos, and the guy then used this to help him out. So it's a really good story here, and to show that what I talk about, guys, in this channel, the stories I share and everything like that, they happen all around the world. So there's so much to be learned from this, other guys' experiences, so it doesn't bring turmoil into your life. But it's pretty entertaining about how this whole thing goes about, what this guy does. And he does come out on top, but regardless, definitely he has to keep an eye on his wife and her friends. So it starts off, he says, hello SSM. This is probably too short for you to bother making a video, but I thought I'd send it anyways. I thought you'd be interested to know that one of your videos helped out a good friend of mine. Well, bro, it's not too short, and if it's a story that somebody's helped out, I certainly love to hear about it. So, guys, by all means, send your stories, whether they're short or long. They're always good ones to have. I have a very close friend, we'll call him Joe, who I've known since the 8th grade. We're both 46 years old now, and so that would give you an idea how long we've been buddies. This is a guy that could call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, broke down 4 hours away, and I head right over to help him, and I know he'd do the same for me. Anyway, we work together and often go to each other's houses and go to each other if we're having any kind of problems. We're both married, both have kids, and therefore have a lot of common issues, so it just makes sense to confide in each other and give each other advice. Awesome. Sounds like a great friendship. And since the 8th grade, that's a long time, man. He says, well, a few weeks ago, he complained to me that his wife wanted to go on a girls' trip to Florida. We live close to the Canadian border, and my first thought was when he told me this was, I think I've heard this one before. I've been a subscriber to your channel for almost a year now. Not sure how I stumbled across your channel, but there must have been a recommendation video, and I watched it and I got hooked. I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson, and I like that, so that probably explains it. Anyway, I digress. I searched through your videos and found almost the exact same story, except this one had an ending, and you can probably guess what kind of ending it had. I told him to pull up the video, put his earbuds on, and just listen. The next day, he comes in and says he put the kibosh on his wife's trip. His main issue was who she planned to go with. Imagine that. It's always the issue with the girlfriends. If she was going with her parents, that's one thing, but there were 4 to 5 other girls going on this trip, and not only one he trusted. The rest were party girls. They like to drink and often get tipsy and flirty. Well, that's pretty much how these party girls operate. And I have a question here. If this guy's 46, how old is his wife? Okay? And how old are all her friends? If they're all in their 40s and they're party girls, cougar party girls, hate to break it to them, but they're not exactly in high demand if they're in their or even in their late 30s, okay? It'd be one thing if they're a bunch of, mid to late 20-somethings, okay. Now, don't get me wrong. You can have good-looking gals in their 40s that dudes will certainly hook up with in a heartbeat. I mean, a lot of guys say, I would never do that, not some old cougar. Bullshit. If she's above average and nobody else is looking, most guys will hook up with those types of gals. But right here, proves what I'd say all the time. You got to watch out who your girl hangs out with. Your girlfriend, your wife, fiance, whatever. Because if she's in a relationship with you and you got a good thing going, but all her friends just want to go out and party and they're all single, the odds are they're going to try to rope her in and bring her down to their level. Because either A, they don't want to have somebody there maybe judging them, and B, they're probably envious or outright ugly jealous of her because she has what they claim, what they want, but they claim they don't want. And right here. And since a lot of women are sheep and can't think for themselves, they'll just go along with the other girls just to avoid any pressure. Even if the pressuring is getting trashed, flirting with some dude, sitting on some dude's lap, hooking up with him. Anyhow, he says, there's one particular girl that he doesn't care for since she had started since she has acted in a way that made him uncomfortable several times in the past when she's drinking. Trying to sit on his lap at a barbecue, accidentally bumping into him, like literally physically bumping into him, stuff like that. He just doesn't trust her. Anyway, he basically told his wife that she's not going. Oh, I'm sure that went over well. They had an argument about it, but at the end of the night, he pretty much thought he had won. But not quite yet. No. He ain't going to win. At least in the short term, because what's going to happen is he'll say his piece, thinks he wins. Next day, she's going to text all her girlfriends. They're going to be like, oh, hell no. And they'll be getting on her, and no man can tell you what to do, and blah, blah, blah. And then round 2, and, well, pretty much watch this. The next night, she brought up again and basically said she's going, and that's it. His response was golden. Before I tell you his response, I should mention by letting you know that we have 3 mutual friends that are your typical Chad and Tyrone types. At least they were when we were younger. They're all still single and play the game. Of course they're still single. You said they were Chad and Tyrone types when you were younger. As I've said before, Chad and Tyrone, they don't get married or have kids. Well, Chad and Tyrone will have kids, but they won't necessarily have kids in a marriage. Right here. Chad and Tyrone don't get married and settle down. They know better. He says they're all single, still play the game. Just maybe not as quite as much when we were still in our 20s. We'll call them J, A, and G. When she said she was going, he calmly said, okay. Then he let her know that a week after she got back, he was going on a guy's trip to Vegas with, you guessed it, J, A, and G. The Chad and Tyrone types. His wife, having known these guys for many years and full well knowing their reputation, said absolutely not. Wait a second here, hang on. It's okay for her to go down to Florida for a girls' weekend with her friends who are known to be all single and a bunch of drunks and party gals, as he said, and have a reputation. But if this guy wants to go out to Vegas with these 3 dudes that are, they're single and they're older versions of Chad and Tyrone, that's not okay? How exactly does that work out right here? What a little bullshit. He says, he said, you can go to Florida, but I'm going to Vegas. Or, hang on a second, I skipped a good part. He said, you can go to Florida, but then I can go to Vegas. Or you can stay home and I'll stay home. She chose the latter. There you go. That says something to her about her being fearful about this guy going to Vegas with those guys. See how it's the same thing in a sense, but guys have better self-control than the gals do. It's been proven that time and time again. This wasn't an empty threat. Those guys really were going on a trip to Las Vegas and had actually invited Joe a few weeks prior. She was well aware of the fact that he'd been invited but declined. They invited me too, for that matter, but I also declined. Gambling, drinking, etc. just isn't my cup of tea, or Joe's for that matter. Not mine, dude, either. I am done that shit. I hardly ever drink. I've mentioned this in this channel. I drink, the last time I had a drink recently, but then before that it had been a couple months since New Year's. And I don't gamble because I'd rather put my money in a freaking index fund or something to grow over time than piss it away on blackjack. But maybe I'm becoming a boring old man in my mid-40s. Who the hell knows? But yeah, not my scene. Anyhow, he says here, between the 2 of us, we probably drink about a 6-pack of beer, 2 bottles of wine, and a pint of hard liquor in a total year. And I drink most of the wine. Now, if it's a fishing trip, you've got my attention. We're just way beyond our party days. I'm with you, man. I'm done that shit too. I like peace and quiet. Anyway, Joe told me after listening to the video that I showed him and a few others that pretty much sealed the deal and he drew the line in the sand. So for now, the marriage is saved. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, those friends of hers aren't going away. And those friends of hers are going to be resentful both towards her and your buddy because he did what he did. Now, he did the right thing, laying down the law. And he did it in a great way with okay, fine, I'll go to Vegas too. And you saw how quickly that ended. Those girls, it's not going to stop there. And his wife's going to be resentful. So there's going to be other bullshit coming up down the road. So I would definitely prepare this guy for this. And I'm not being disrespectful to your buddy, but just given what I do, given what I know, my experience, and 1,000 videos I've done between both channels on the subject, there's going to be more shit coming. And I would be very careful for him with those gals he hangs out with, because they're going to try to sabotage things even more. Guaranteed. He says, Joe isn't the type of guy who's the simp type. He says, I hate that word, but I can't think of anything else at the moment. He's as manly as a man as you'll find anywhere. Rides one of the most badass Harleys I've ever seen. Has every toy a man would want. Boats, RV, recreational vehicles of all sorts, classic cars, etc., etc. He takes really good care of everything he owns. Doesn't take shit from anyone and isn't afraid to call you out on your BS. Good for him. No guy should be any other way. In fact, when we were younger, back in the days when disputes sometimes were settled with fist fights, I probably watched him get into several dozen fights. Not one I could honestly say he started, and I don't think I ever saw him lose. I was there and had his back, but never once had to get involved. The smart people knew you just didn't mess with Joe. His bluntness is what I like about him. He's honest to the point and really has no filter. I'd always appreciate the fact that he'd even call me out if he feels like I'm out of line, or better yet, points out the pieces of spinach in your teeth instead of letting you go about your day oblivious to the fact that it's there. He's a very direct guy. You don't have a whole lot of that these days. A lot of guys have been conditioned, thanks to the feminist movement, to essentially act like women, and they're not direct. They don't speak their minds. They don't take charge. They don't lead. They put up with bullshit. He's old school. He must have been raised in a household where he had a good male role model. His dad, his uncle, his grandfather, whatever. I mention this stuff because I do think there's more hope for his marriage than most. His wife might test him, most due to their husbands, but Joe isn't the type of person that will put up with any kind of crap ever. That's good. And what he just said there, guys, for you marriage and relationship guys, the women are always going to test, okay? It doesn't just stop like they pulled some tests when you were dating and she saw that you didn't back down, or you passed the test and that's it. No. The tests always go, because the second a guy demonstrates weakness or her perception of weakness, I want to make that distinction, they're going to test just to make sure you're the same strong guy that they fell for, because they don't want a weak guy. I mean, there are women nowadays, sadly, because of the feminist movement, I keep saying feminist, I normally don't do that want to control a man. They want a guy that can boss around because they can feel strong and empowered. But feminine women, traditional ones, no, it's a turnoff. So they got to test every so often to see if the guy's still strong, still has a backbone, will put her in her place when she crosses the line. Because if he doesn't, it's going to turn her off, and she'll become bitchy and start acting masculine and do more tests. So I got to make that clear. I know this channel is entertainment, but it's also good lessons to help guys out. So I got to make that clear. Anyway, thanks for the very entertaining videos, and keep them coming. I listen to podcasts all day at work, and your videos are almost always somewhere in the lineup. One of the first things I check for are notifications that you've posted something on one or both of your channels. Bro, thank you for your support. I really appreciate that. I honestly don't listen for the advice, though I do agree with most of what you say, but I do find your videos extremely entertaining. I can't explain why. It's not the type of content I usually gravitate to. I just think it's the way you present it. Actually, I don't even watch the videos, I just listen. Well, bro, I really appreciate your support, like I said earlier in the video, and I'm glad that the channel has helped out your buddy, because otherwise she could have gone on that vacation and Lord knows what would have happened, but this is why I do what I do. And so this is also, guys, so great that you guys always send in your stories to me, because it's one thing to do really good articles from around the world to help guys out, and some crazy-ass stories I'll find online, but when you guys, the subscribers, write in your stories about your things you've gone through or things you're going through right now, it really, a lot of guys really appreciate that, and they can relate to that. So this is why I encourage you guys always, you got a great story, email it to me. Give me all the details. I don't care if it's 10 pages long. I don't care if it's 20 pages long. If it's a really good story that's both entertaining, that we all can enjoy listening to, and also learn from, it's worth it. So by all means, guys, send your stories. I may not get to them right away. In fact, as the channel has grown, I get more and more stories all the time, so I have to really spend time going through, finding the best ones. I may not get to everyone, because some just don't work, or some, let's be honest, are poorly written, but I do my best to get to them, and sometimes it can take me 2 months. I kid you not. I go back sometimes, and I have ones that were good, but I was just waiting around to save for the right time. So if you write me, Just give me time, I will get to them if they're definitely a really good one. So guys, wrapping it up, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below and let me know what you think about this, guys. Give this guy a high five in the comment section for sharing the channel and helping this guy out, as well as the guy handling it like a boss. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.